Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the online chess lesson for Thursday night. This is Robert Jamieson here, and I have with me tonight Gary Lin. Hello, Gary.
Hello.
Now, we normally start by finding out a little bit about the person who's in here with me. So, how old are you, Gary?
11.
Okay. What school do you go to?
McKinnon Secondary.
Okay. And your chess rating is? You don't know?
I don't know.
What's your online rating then?
1,464.
Okay, that's pretty good online rating. Did you play in the Australian Junior?
No.
No, okay. Right, but you are playing at Ballarat this weekend?
Yeah.
Yep, so that should be exciting. All right, well, today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not going to have any polls. Instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to play through a very important tournament game from the past as practice for Ballarat to see how we play a proper serious tournament game. And Gary and I are going to be focusing on the white side, and I'm going to unmute you individually and ask you the occasional question about the black side. So be ready for me to call out your name and say, what do you think of this move, and unmute you, and you can hopefully reply and give us your thoughts. Okay, so what we're looking at is we're going right back to 1976. And the Chess Olympiad, which was played in Haifa in Israel. Now the Chess Olympiad is sort of probably the highlight of anyone's chess career, to play for their country, and particularly to play on top board. So today Gary and I'll be pretending we're playing top board for Australia with the white pieces in the 1976 Olympiad. This will be a new experience for Gary, and it'll be a severe test of my imagination, so we'll see how we go. Our opponent is Wolfgang Unzicker, and you've probably read something about him there on the screen while you were waiting for the lesson to start. But let me just give you a little bit of a preamble to what chess was like in those days. So in Australia, we didn't have any grandmasters, and we only had 2 IMs. That was me. I got my title a year before in 1975, and I was rated I think about 24-20. So these days, with rating inflation, you could probably add on 120 points or something to convert it to modern ratings. The other IM was an old guy named Cecil Purdy, who was 70 years old but still playing a bit of chess. So poor old Australia only has 2 IMs in the whole country. Okay, question for Gary. So if you think of the whole of Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, Oceania, all those countries, we'll leave out Israel because they're an exception, because they had a lot of Russians come and migrate to Israel. In all those countries back in 1976, how many grandmasters do you think there would be?
Don't know.
Have a guess. 100, 5, none, 10? What do you think?
Probably hundreds.
100, okay. Well, the correct answer is back in 1976, in all of Asia, there was 1 grandmaster named Torre in the Philippines. And in China, they had absolutely no international players. India only had 1 international master. So in those days, if you were a grandmaster, you're a really strong player. And if you play against a grandmaster, you've got a really top game, and you couldn't really expect to win. Anyway, we were sending a team off to the Haifa Olympiad, and we had a very long flight from Sydney to Israel. We stopped off, I think, in Singapore and New Delhi on the way. We arrived after about 20 hours at Tel Aviv, which is the airport in the capital of Israel. Then we had to hop on a taxi and take another trip for an hour or two, because we'd arrived at the Olympiad 4 or 5 days early to acclimatise when we were staying on a thing called a kibbutz. Have you ever heard of a kibbutz? Okay, it's like an Israeli collective farm where people sort of make their own produce and try and live naturally from what they can make themselves. So we arrived there late in the afternoon, we're tired, we're hungry, and the guy meets us and he says, oh, this is fantastic, you've arrived just in time for tea. All right, so I think this is good. So we rock up and we're queuing there for tea, and I've got my plate all ready, and I'm queuing up to get the food, and first they put on my plate a thing called a gherkin, which is like an American cucumber sort of thing, pickled, not very appetizing. And then they put a fish head on my plate. And I'm sitting there thinking, they've given me the wrong bit. they've taken away the bit you eat and they've given me the bit you throw out. What's going on here? And apparently this is sort of an Israeli delicacy. You eat the eye and you eat all around the head and stuff like that, and it's terrible. So that night my dinner was a Mars bar. So that was my introduction to Israel. Anyway, we stayed on the kibbutz for 3 or 4 days and sort of acclimatized to the atmosphere and the time zone and everything. And then we rock up to play an Olympiad. Now, normally in an Olympiad, there'd be like 120, 130 countries, and everyone plays, and Australia's ranked maybe 50. But because it was in Israel, Israel's not a very popular country, and all the Arab countries, they like boycotted it, and all the Soviet Union bloc, they boycotted it as well. So it ended up only being, I think, 48 teams. But there were still some quite strong teams, America, England, Holland, that sort of thing. But we did a lot better than you'd normally expect because a lot of the strongest countries weren't there. Anyway, we're doing fairly well, and we come up to the last round. And we're probably about 9th, 10th spot, something like that. But we have to play the very powerful West German team. And in Olympiads, the last round is the absolute key. If you win 4-0, you zoom up 1,000,000 spots and everyone thinks you're wonderful. If you lose 4-0, you're right down the bottom with the dregs. So we have to do well against West Germany. So my opponent was Grandmaster Wolfgang Unzicker, who you've read about there. He was a very strong player, probably 14 or 15 in the world in the 1950s. And he'd beaten Bobby Fischer, he'd beaten Tal, played all the top guys, so he was really strong. But at the time, fortunately, he'd gotten a bit past his prime. I think he was 50 or so, but he was still a top player in West Germany. So I was expecting a really hard game. I'd never played him before. All right. So, Gary, there we are. We're ready to play him. We're white. What sort of things do you think we've prepared for the game? What have we done? We know our opponent. What should we be doing before a big tournament game? You know you're playing a particular guy. Is it something you should be thinking about, or how do you prepare for the game? Don't really know?
Sorry.
All right, well, what you should be doing, so think of this at Ballarat, if you play some people you know. What you should be doing is finding out a bit about your opponent, what sort of game he likes, what sort of openings he plays. So if he's a really strong attacking player, you'd try and play a boring game and swap off sort of thing. So Unzicker, he's a strong player, but he's an old man. So what sort of game do you think he'd like? What would he be good at?
Maybe.
Positional play, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's very experienced. So he's got good technique, but he's old, so he probably doesn't like to think and have combinations of tactics and things like that. So I'm expecting him to play a positional game against me and probably grind me down positionally. So, all right, let's start the game. So we're white. What should we play? What move do you want to play first?
E4.
Why do we choose E4?
Because that's what I normally play.
That's what you normally play. Okay, I play E4 as well. Okay, so we start off with E4. So the opening phase of the game is a battle to get into your favourite opening as opposed to their favourite opening. So I play E4 most of the time, so I'm not going to start off with D4 or C4 or something I don't know that well. All right. Now, he plays E5. What are we going to do now?
Knight F3.
Knight F3, yep, very good. That's what I normally do too. He plays Knight C6, and I think you beauty. I'm going to play the Ruy Lopez opening. All right, now it's black's go, and who will we have a chat to? Zoe. I'll unmute you, Zoe. You there, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. All right, so you're black in this position. I've just played the Ruy Lopez on you. What move do you reckon black should play now, or what moves would you look at playing?
Maybe knight F6 or D6. Knight F6 or D6.
Okay. Any other move you'd look at? Do you know the most common move for black in this position?
Knight D4.
No. The most common move is actually A6. I don't know whether you hear when we had Lachlan in and he played a Rai Lopez and he played D6, and we worked out it's better for black first to put the question to that bishop, and if the bishop runs away to A4, you've then gained a move, and you can play that D6 then if you want something like that. Or if the bishop takes the knight, we weren't scared of that. All right, thank you. I'll mute you up again. All right. Now, what are we going to do here? How go? Gary, what, are you going to move the bishop or are you going to take the knight?
Maybe take the knight.
Why are we taking the knight?
Because
is the knight a better piece than the bishop, or why are we choosing this variation? I mean, they're both good variations. We could take the knight or we could go back to A4. So in this instance, where I'm playing board 1 against Unzuka, why would I choose to take the knight instead of the normal bishop A4?
I'm not actually quite sure.
You don't know? Okay. Well, the reason I take the knight is because I always take the knight. I've played the exchange variation since I was a junior. Now, why I choose the exchange variation is probably two reasons. Okay. My idea of openings is you're trying to get into the opening that you understand and your opponent doesn't understand. So if you play something a little bit offbeat and you study that really well, you'll be experienced in it and they won't. So most people don't play bishop takes knight. So I think, Woody, I'll do that. Straight away we're going to be into my opening and on my home ground. Another good thing is that a bloke named Bobby Fischer played it. He quite often played the exchange variation. So if he plays it, and he was the world champion in 72 to 75, and probably the greatest player ever, it must be pretty good. Okay, now we have a question. Max, I'll ask you. You there, Max?
Yeah.
Say hello. Okay, now do you want to take me back with the B pawn or the D pawn, or don't care?
D pawn.
Why do you choose the D pawn?
It basically lets the light squared bishop out
Yeah.
in a better direction.
Is taking with the B pawn okay, or is that okay?
It's okay, but not that good.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. All right, well, Max has pretty well got it. You can take with the B pawn, that's all right, but most people take with the D pawn. That's the more popular move because it opens up the bishop, opens up the queen, maybe black's going to castle queen side, that sort of thing. All right, Gary, what are we going to do now?
Probably castle.
Okay, why would we play castles rather than, say, knight c3? Remember our last lesson where we talked about preserving your options and things like that? Don't remember?
Don't remember.
Okay. Well, the logic of it goes like this. You're going to castle kingside, aren't you? It's vacant, you can do it, so you know you're going to castle kingside. Whereas maybe your knight doesn't want to go to c3, it might want to go to d2, you're not quite sure. So if we castle first, we've preserved our options. So castles would be the go in this position. Now, here, black played f6, and one of Carl's questions to you guys was suggest some other moves. So let's have a talk to Mitch. I'll unmute Mitch. Are you there, Mitch?
Yep.
Great, okay. So the guy in the game played f6. Did you think of any other moves that black might want to have a look at?
F6. Oh, well, it allows you to castle on the king side, which is good.
Right. Now your king pawn's attacked, so you've got to either pin my knight or protect that pawn somehow, probably. So if you're not doing it with f6, what other move would you look at?
Or probably either queen d6 or just moving your f7 pawn up one.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that, Mitch. Okay. So let's get some thoughts. Okay. Queen d6. Gary, would you be worried by that move? What's the idea there? Why would you want to play queen d6?
Maybe he wants to castle on the queen side, maybe?
Yeah. So he's probably going to nip his bishop out to d7 or g4 and then castle queenside really quickly. So that would be what he's thinking of there. Okay. What about bishop g4? Does that scare you? What would you do if you did bishop g4?
h3.
Okay. I would say go away to the bishop. Now, if he chops you, bishop takes knight, you can recapture with developing move. That looks pretty good. Now let's say he plays queen f6, saying let's have a swap of queens. What would you play here? Would you take his queen? Would you leave your queen? Would you move it? What would be good, do you think? Would you take his queen? Or would that be a bad move?
Probably not take his queen.
Why not? Why not?
Because then he can take it back with a developing.
Yeah, he would recapture with developing moves, so you'd be giving him a free move. But he's maybe going to take our queen and muck up our pawns. So maybe we should move our queen. So where could we put it that it'd be okay?
Maybe e2.
We could go back to e2. What I like to do is I like to play queen g3. And White's idea then is he's going to play pawn to d3 and then pawn to f4. And his rook's going to be bumping into Black's queen and causing a bit of a nuisance there. So I find that's quite good. But if you're going to play this line, you have to be a bit careful, because if you're playing an attacking guy, how would you feel if he played h5? What do you think about that one? Would you take his bishop? What do you think? It's a bit risky, or is it a free bishop?
It's a bit risky.
It's a bit risky. It's very risky. You can't really take his bishop here, because if you move your knight somewhere like here, then he rips in queen h5 and you've got all sorts of problems. So you can leave his bishop there and laugh at him for a while, but it's a pretty aggressive attack. So if you're going to play this line, you need to learn up how White should defend against this line. But a lot of people play the best move, which is probably f6. All right. Now, what are we going to do for White? Winzik has just played f6.
d4.
And why are we playing d4? What's good about d4?
Is attacking the pawn on e5.
Yeah, so we're attacking for anything else?
Attacking the center.
Yeah, it's good. Remember I talked in our previous lessons where we're trying to get the two pawns side by side? So we've got the e4 and d4 pawns side by side. So that's really cool. So, what would you think if he played bishop d6? I'll ask, say, Jason. Jason, you there?
Yep.
What if Black played bishop d6 here? Would that be a good move? What do you think about that one? What could White do? What could White do now?
He can block his bishop.
What actual move would you make, do you reckon? Can you see an attacking move that's perhaps going to win something?
No.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'll mute you and show you. This happened to me in the Australian Championship once. I played pawn takes pawn, he played pawn takes pawn. And what did I play next, Gary?
Knight take e5.
Yeah, I played knight takes e5. And I think he resigned in about 10 moves or something, because he'd blown a pawn for nothing, and it was all terrible. Because if he takes me, I've got queen h5 check. Picking it up and I'm pawn ahead and his king's in a mess. All right, so bishop d6 would be a bad move. So instead of that, he tags us. All right, now one of Carl's questions was, would it be better to take with the knight or the queen? And you said you think it's about the same. Is that right? So I have to get you to choose. Which one? Which would you choose? Take with the queen or with the knight?
Maybe knight, because that's what he played.
Play knight, because that's what I played in the game. All right. The problem with the queen takes, so let's have a look. So if queen takes, he probably takes us, so that otherwise we would have taken him in a castle. We take him. Maybe he might chase our knight away and we might go here. So have a look at that position. Now let's go back. Let's say we take with the knight. Now the main line is pawn up, knight back, queen takes queen, rook takes queen. Can you see something similar to what we had before?
The knight is on a...
It's exactly the same as we had before, except white's now got his rook on d1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking with the knight, if he goes down this line, we get the extra move with rook d1, whereas if we take with the queen, we don't get that extra move. So taking with the knight is probably the best one. All right. He then played knight e7. Now, I don't think I played against that before. As I said, c5 is the normal line. So I'm on my own here. So we've got to wing it. So what will we do? What moves would you look at here? Can you give me two moves that you think might be good moves?
F4.
F4? So why do you like F4?
Because there are two pawns side by side.
Two pawns side by side, control and center. Yep, F4 doesn't look too bad. Anything else you might look at? Don't know. What about knight c3? Would that be a good one? Protecting your pawn, developing a knight?
Maybe.
What about bishop e3?
Yeah.
Okay, well what I played was knight c3. On reflection, I think that might be a little bit of a boo-boo, because when you look at that knight, it can't really go anywhere. And I'll show you another way, an alternative. So let's say he plays bishop e3. Let's say I play bishop e3. He plays knight out. And then I could play knight d2, so that when he plays bishop d6 like he did in the game, either now or shortly, I can play knight c4 and maybe get his bishop. And this is actually... He brings his bishop out, and now we're going to play you a good move. What do you reckon we should do here?
F4.
F4, yes. As I've told you guys, we're trying to get two pawns side by side in the opening. So white's achieved that, and he's got a bit more space. So that's really cool. So black castles. All right. How do you think we're going, Gary? What do you reckon?
Good.
What's good? What we better, worse, just a little bit better? Is it equal? What do you think?
I think it's equal.
Think it's equal?
Yeah.
All right. What's white going for his position? What are white's strengths?
He has two pawns side by side.
Yeah, and he's got more control
Of the center.
of the center. And what are black's strengths? He's got one thing we haven't got. What's that thing on c8? He's got the two bishops.
Yeah.
And two bishops are generally a bit better than a bishop and a knight. Right. Now, one of the things I said before is about trying to get into your own opening, and when you get to play your opening, you probably develop an understanding of what the plan is from your particular opening, your middle game plan, your end game plan, whatever. So we've played the exchange low pairs, which has given us this particular pawn structure. So I'd like you to particularly focus on the pawns, Gary. So what do you think, in general, White's plan is when he plays the exchange low pairs? What would he be trying to do? Don't know?
Yeah, don't know.
All right. Well, the differences in the position is the double pawns. So if White was able to swap off all the pieces, White would have 4 pawns to 3 on the king's side, and his 3 pawns would hold up Black's 4 pawns on the queen's side. So White would, in effect, be a whole pawn up. So if we swap off, we get to an ending, win for White. Okay, so the idea of the exchange low pairs is really for White to swap off, head straight for an ending, and try and win the pawn ending. Whereas Black's trying to keep it in the middle game and use his 2 bishops to effect. All right, our go now. So we'll play Queen D3, sort of bringing our queen up to protect that pawn. He plays Queen E8, probably to put a little bit of pressure on our pawn. What do you want to do now, Gary? What would be good? I think you've suggested maybe King H8 you like. Oh, you mean H? Oh no, this next move. What do you want to play for White here? We're developing our pieces. We've still got some pieces to develop. So what's the obvious move?
Maybe move the rook or something.
Where would we put the rook?
D1 maybe.
D1 or E1? What do you think?
Actually maybe E1's better.
Yeah, they're probably both okay. I put it on E1. I thought if his queen's on E8, I'll put my rook on E1, and it's all nice and safe and solid. All right. Black now played King H8. Let's have a talk to Nick. You there, Nick?
Yep.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
That's good. Black's just played King H8. What do you think of that move? Is that a good move, bad move? Any ideas or thoughts on that?
It's okay. I mean, it's getting his king in the corner away from...
Does he want his king in the corner?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so why would he want his king in the corner? What's he scared of?
Maybe a good central attack coming in.
Yeah, or maybe White might check him on that
going.
long diagonal at some stage, and that might worry him.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So you're happy with King H8? Or is there anything else you would have played? No, you're happy with that? All right, cool. Thank you very much. Okay, well, when I was playing the game, I was a bit surprised by that move because I didn't think I was really threatening to check him on the diagonal to any effect at the moment. So I thought maybe he was sort of like waiting to see what I was going to do. Because in chess, you don't always have to be out there attacking. He could be waiting, and then when I start attacking him, he can respond and he can outplay me in his defensive sort of responses and everything. So I was a little bit surprised by that. All right, Gary, we've got our bits on pretty good squares. Our rooks are okay, our king's safe, we've got knights, bishops, we've got 2 pawns. It's our move. What the hell are we going to do? Have we got some good attack somewhere, or what should we be thinking of? Any idea?
No, I don't think.
It's pretty hard, isn't it? Because your pieces are okay and there's nothing obvious to attack. All right. So what you often do in these situations is you just play a little move that'll perhaps improve your position just slightly and not weaken anything too much. It's a little repairing sort of move. So I could have played maybe knight f5, but maybe you take and double my pawns, or at some stage take. I thought what I'll do, I'll just play a3. So it's only a little move. It stops his bishop going to b4, pinning my knight and putting my e-pawn under a bit of pressure. Can't do any harm. And now I'm seeing what he's going to do. If he's playing king h8 waiting for me, it's like I'm playing a3 waiting for him. All right, so he develops his bishop. At the moment, isn't it? Knight's meant to be good in the centre.
Yeah.
So knight b3. Why would you want to put your knight on b3?
I don't actually know.
Don't know.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's the move I chose. What I'm thinking of is maybe that knight could go either to c5 or to a5 and sort of prod his b pawn and maybe take a bishop, something like that. So it's just sort of waiting again. And I offered him a draw. Why did I offer him a draw?
Because it's equal.
And I'm a little bit better. I've got all that centre and all that lovely space and stuff. What do you think? Would it be a good move to offer a draw or not? We'll ask Oliver. Hi, Oliver. You there? Say something, Oliver. Not there? No, Oliver's not there. All right. Who else can we ask? Sean. You there, Sean? Say hello, Sean. No, we've lost Sean as well. All right. Well, he declined my draw, but I didn't really offer a draw because I wanted a draw, or I thought he'd accept. It's more like a tournament strategy. He's much stronger than me. So if I offer him a draw, maybe that'll think that he's got to push the game and press hard to try and beat me. So it was a bit of a strategy. So he declined, and he put his rook on d8. Okay, so it's on the same line as my queen. So I drop back again. Now he played his bishop back to get his rook into the play a bit. And I played knight a5. So is that getting my knight offside, or is that knight going somewhere?
Maybe to c4.
Yeah, so the knight's planning to go to c4, and I may or may not want to take that bishop or just put that bishop under pressure. And if I end up taking that bishop, what have we got then? We've got bishops of opposite colours, haven't we?
Yeah.
So that would make it more likely I could get a draw, because we've got the famous bishops of opposite colours. Okay, so he played, where are we? Try and get my mouse working. He could have played a sneaky move. Have a look at this. Knight e5. My computer found that. I didn't find that, and Unzika didn't find that. What's your reaction to that?
I don't know. Probably.
Is he sacrificing a knight, or is it a good move? So if I take him, his queen takes, and now he's got a double attack on my knight and my h2 pawn. If he gets on that h2 pawn, then I think he's checkmating me before too long. It'll be all horrible. So that might have been a sneaky move that we both missed. All right, so instead of that, he played c5. All right, we'll play the knight to c4 like we were planning. And he played b6. Now, he could perhaps have played b5. that would be more aggressive and gain him a bit of space on the queen side and everything. But as I said, he's an old man, he's a positional player, he doesn't want to get too aggressive. Right, what are we going to do now, Gary?
Maybe take a bishop.
Take the bishop? Yeah, I reckon that's a good move too. We'll get rid of that bishop. Now, let's see if we can unmute someone and try and see what's happening. Evan. Can you hear me, Evan?
Alright.
Hi. So
Hi.
if you're black here, would you take with the rook or the pawn, do you think?
Pawn, to undouble your pawns.
Okay, taking with the rook, is that a bad move or are they much of a muchness?
Don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard decision. I think I'll take with the pawn too, so I agree with you. So thank you for that. So most people take with the pawn to undouble the pawn. So what would be the problem with that, Gary? Would black have a weakness somewhere?
Black has a back pawn.
He's got the backward pawn on the open file on d6, so maybe I can start trying to attack that a bit. So that's probably why I decided not to do that. And he took with the rook. All right. Our go again. So we've swapped off one set of pieces. What can we do now?
F5.
F5. Why would you think about playing F5?
Because maybe after then the bishop can sort of like come out.
Okay. Wouldn't F5 be a bad move though, because that's giving his knight a really good square. Let's have a look. That's giving his knight that really good square E5 to go to, and now we've got the backward pawn on the open file. Doesn't that worry you?
Yeah. Not really.
Why not?
Because there is 3 pieces protected.
Yeah, there's lots of pieces protecting it. So this is what makes chess hard. We have rules and sayings like backward pawns on open files are bad, but you've got to know when that rule doesn't apply, and maybe it doesn't apply in this position. So we chased his knight to d5, so playing f5, so we've chased his knight to a good square, but we've opened up our bishop. Is there anything else we've gained? What about a bit of space? We've got more space on the king side now, haven't we?
Yeah.
All right, and where do you attack in general?
Maybe attack on the king side.
Yeah, you attack where you have more space because you can more readily bring your attacking pieces across. But I'm not wanting to attack at the moment. I'm just playing around trying not to lose. Okay, what are we going to do for white?
Maybe bishop f4.
We could play bishop f4. Any other move you'd look at?
Or knight d5.
Yeah, I like knight d5. Because remember from what I've been saying the other weeks, we're trying to put our pieces on good squares. So d5 is really good for me. So if he tries to chase me away with his pawn at any stage by c6, he's got to worry about his b6 pawn. And that'll block out his bishop as well. So I reckon d5 is pretty cool. And I'm attacking his c pawn. So he defends there. All right, what are we going to do now?
Maybe c4.
c4, yep. So we're entrenching that knight on d5. That's looking pretty good. So he develops his bishop. Now, maybe he's going to take our knight. Are you scared of that?
Don't know.
What pawn would you take back with?
Maybe I think I'll take back with the c pawn.
I think I'd probably do it the other way because my next move, bishop f4. So now if he was to take my knight, I'd take with the e pawn, and then I'm sort of dominating that open e file, and his knight's pinned and stuff like that. So I've got my bishop on a good square now, pinning that knight. He unpins. All right, so we've got our pieces reasonably placed. What can we do now? It's sort of a little bit difficult again. Any thoughts on what would be a good move?
Maybe.
You want to move a pawn, or what do you want to do?
I don't know. I think I'll play Queen H5, maybe.
Queen H5, maybe, and try and get an attack going. I played a funny move, Rook C1, which is sort of taking the rook from a good spot and putting it on probably not so good spot. Why on earth would I want to do that?
Maybe to defend the pawn. Or
Yeah, it's defended by the queen already. I
so,
suppose now the queen can move to H5 if I want. Would there be any other reason why I want my rook on C1? All right, remember I said when we're trying to work out the plan, we look for the two pawns side by side. Can you see where white could perhaps think about getting two pawns side by side in the future?
B4.
Yeah, white could maybe think about B4, and if we have a swap, then my C pawn is perhaps rolling into the system with a rook behind it. So that makes black think about, is white going to play B4? Right, so black's a bit worried about that, so he tries to stop it. So I might move my rook up to a better square. Where's that rook going?
Maybe to H3.
Could go to H3. You'd also need to think, if he ever takes my knight and we get the open E file, the rook could go to E3 as well. So it's got two possibilities. Okay, he goes to A6, so he's putting pressure on my pawn. So how should I defend that pawn some more, just in case? Should I play B3 or should I move the other rook across?
Maybe B3.
Yeah, I'd normally play B3 because that means the pawn's protected forever. But I was a bit sneaky. I moved the other rook across. So I'm not doing anything much. I'm just sitting on him. I've got a bit more space. He's got to find something to do. Goes back again. What do you think? He's running out of ideas?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. We live in hope. All right. So what can we do?
Maybe now we can go rook H3.
Yeah. So if we want to get something to attack, he's sort of stopped our B4 plan. If you have a look at his H7 pawn, that's very badly defended just by the king, and we have lots of space. So let's move our rook across and think about getting attack going. So we might be looking at playing Queen H5 and stuff, though he can defend with Queen G8. So he's worried that he might have to move his queen, and if he moves the queen, I could take that knight and get rid of that very strong knight in the center of the board. So we play a sneaky move here. We could have played H5, but I play rook C to C3. Now, why do you think I went there?
Because then you can take the pawn on H7.
I'm sort of threatening a sacrifice. Now, I think his problem was he assumed I went to C3 because maybe the rook wants to come to E3 to defend that pawn. So he made an assumption that proved to be wrong because he jumped in, of course, and made a big boo-boo, knight D4. He should have played rook F8, knight D4, and then this is where the puzzle starts. So this position has been published a few times as a puzzle with white to play and win. So Gary, the winning move is?
Rook take H7.
Rook takes pawn check. Excellent. He has to take us back. Then we hit him with the queen check. He has to go back. And then we double our queen and rook, threatening mate in 1. So he can get out of it. Let's say he played rook F8. What could we do then that would be good? If we check him on H8, he's just going to go to F7.
Maybe knight take F6.
Very good. We've got this killer move. Knight takes F6, forking his king and his queen. So if he takes with the pawn, it's checkmate in 2 with queen H8. And if he takes with the rook, we get a free queen, and we pick up a rook as well. So that would have been fantastic. So he can't really go back like that. So he sort of gave me a spike check. I moved my king up, and then he was like shaking his head, saying, how did I ever make this silly mistake? And he resigned. So that was a really good good win against a strong player, and we only just lost to West Germany 1.5, 2.5, and ended up coming, I think, 13th in the whole Olympiad, which was our best ever result, which was really great. Okay, what can we learn from that game?
Maybe
When you're playing a really strong player,
try to make it a draw.
I think rather than try to play for a draw, you just play solidly. So except at the end, I had a plan with an attack, and unfortunately I missed it. But up till then, I didn't have any big plans. I wasn't sort of threatening or attacking. I was just making a move at a time, putting a knight on d5 or a bishop on f4 or a waiting move like a3. So you can do that against good players and more or less say to them, right, you beat me. You take some risks and try and beat me. And they might overreact and you end up getting a victory. So that was cool. So that was the end of the game today. Now just quickly, for those of you who are playing in Ballarat, we'll move past the fish, and I'll put a few points about tournament strategy there, which you can have a look at for Ballarat. Basically, I talked about preparing for specific opponents, like we talked before, about trying to find out about Unzicker and what sort of player he was, and trying to get the game into the sort of opening that you like. For drawing, I don't like draws at all, even though I often won in this game. I didn't ever expect he would take it. And when you guys are playing at Ballarat, it would be a waste of time just to have a Grandmaster draw with someone because they're your rating or it's even or whatever. You know, you're there to learn, so you should play out and see how you go, because you learn by playing. Another thing for a big tournament, you should perhaps look at setting yourself a target score. So you think like the 7 rounds, what would be a good score for me? Maybe if I got 3 points, that'd be really good. So you're sort of like aiming for something. And if you're doing really well or really poorly, you can perhaps modify that a little bit, but it's good to have a little bit of a target. But the main thing in Ballarat, what's the main difference between playing in Ballarat and playing in a normal RJ Shield or something?
Ballarat is an adult tournament.
Adult tournament. And what about the time controls?
It's long.
Yeah, you've got heaps and heaps and heaps of time. In that Olympiad game against Unzicker, in the good old days, we were playing at 40 moves in 2.5 hours each. So that's like a 5-hour session. I remember I had one game that even went 10 hours. So in adult tournaments, you get heaps of time. So you guys should make certain you use the time wisely, and maybe use it to think about planning and what your opponent's doing and checking your moves, that sort of thing. And then the other main point is when you finish your game, where I got there under analysis, is make certain you go over your game with your opponent, because you're probably playing an adult who's a stronger player, and he'll be able to give you some good ideas, and also go over it with your coach, and he can find out any ways you can improve as well. And finally, they have lots of nice begonias at Ballarat, because it's the Ballarat Begonia Festival. So if you finish your game quickly, pop off and see the begonias, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that too. So that's the end of today's lesson. I think next week we're having Rebecca hopefully in here, and I hope to see lots of interesting games at Ballarat that we can use for our future lessons. So thank you all for attending, and we'll see you all in Ballarat or next week. See you later.
The organizer has ended